This is not your mother's middle-aged. No longer is waking up each day, living the wash, rinse, and repeat cycle acceptable. We have the life lessons, the relationships, the wins, and the losses with which to navigate to our highest self, without hesitation and without fear leading the way. We have been there and done that, and so we have so much to offer the world and each other. So join me on this journey, speaking to ordinary women doing extraordinary things for new insights, new ideas, new medical breakthroughs, and new life lessons. You will be inspired to find your best life here and now. My name is Wendy Charles Maguire, and this is your Second Wind podcast. Hi there, Second Wind. Welcome back to another fabulous episode with two more fabulous people that I have the fortune to know and get to know and now become friends with. I have Kristi Hellenbrand and her daughter, Brooklynn, who have lived with Lyme for 2 years now, probably longer, but 2 years. And it has had a hold on their family in so many different ways. Kristi is a chiropractor by trade, mother of 3 teenagers, wife for 23 years, and has, like me, a farm of misfits, misfit animals that we take care of. And her daughter, Brooklynn, is a rising junior in high school who had a very normal and ordinary life until Lyme took hold of their family. Kristi became an advocate and started a support group with another fabulous woman. And during this time, Brooklynn decided to launch her own website. Huge project. It looks amazing. And it's called Lyme Lives Here. And that debuted recently, May 17th of 2022 for a Girl Scout project. And we're going to talk about that a little bit. So welcome, ladies.
Thank you, Wendy. I'm so excited to be here. Brooklynn is as well. This is a big deal for her.
This is really good. I know that you both a little nervous, and I said, no, It's going to be fun. We're just going to have a conversation.
Yeah.
But your story is real. It's so real. And my kids are older, so all they've had to do is just roll their eyes when I mention Lyme. It hasn't really affected them. But you had your kids in your home while this is happening to you. And there's many, many women who are child givers during having Lyme and not even knowing it.
Right.
And even if they do know it, they're trying to raise a family, which I can't even imagine. So you were in the throes of it.
Yeah.
Mothers Against Lyme is a testament to that. So let's get started. Kristi, tell me your story. Tell the Second Wind listeners. What the heck?
So I was fortunate enough to have teenagers when I became sick. I didn't have the littles, they were all older. But that unfortunately did lead to other issues in our home. And kind of my story goes back to 2020. So, everyone was quarantining and we had remained healthy and happy, and actually having Daddy working from home was wonderful. And my practice, it's a home chiropractic office. We had relocated it outside for a time. We had a 10-foot by 10-foot tent. We were seeing patients out by where the horses were at the fence.
Oh, wow.
It was just a really great time. It wasn't 2020 was rolling, and we were doing okay. And then that summer I got what I thought was like a summer flu. Actually, let me go back a little before that. I would be working with patients and I would get very lightheaded or dizzy. I'd break out in sweats. And I, just thought I better check in with my cardiologist. I had one from a couple other incidents that had happened over the years. And then I started to get that flu feeling on top of it. And I said, I better just go in. And so he cleared me. Everything looked normal. Blood pressure was a little low. I've always dealt with that, which is why I had him on my team to begin with. But as the weeks went on, I began to feel poisoned, is what I told my husband. We were sitting at the kitchen table, I remember, and I said to him, I don't know how to describe this to you other than to tell you that I think I'm being poisoned. And at that point, we got a carbon monoxide detector. We checked into radon testing. We did the mold testing. I was the one that was at home most. The kids were all off at school. Brandon was off at work. And so
that's why you thought if it was carbon monoxide, you were the only one getting it because you were in the home.
That I would have been the most affected by it.
Is that what?
Yeah. And so when none of those things really showed anything, I did eventually go to a doctor I had referred my own patients to for years. I had never needed her, but she was a functional medicine kind of integrative specialist, MD, that I went to her and I said, there's something really, really wrong. And so we made up a list together. We differential diagnosis list of like 15, 20 different things. And some of them were really big, bad, and scary. And some of them were, your hormones are off. You just need some testosterone. And so, it was our plan to go through that list and start checking things off. And what happened, however, was that we had a quick progression of a worsening. And it started with my feet going, not numb, but they were floating. And then over the course of a week, it came up to about my waist. And
so wait, floating. Describe that so people can.
It's as if they're not there. It's as if they're not there. It's as if it's almost. I told my husband it was like a phantom legs from my feet. And then it was my knees down, and then I was sitting there, and it was my waist down, and these phantom limbs would give out on me sometimes. I had ordered a cane at that point, and was actually out with one of my horses getting an exam done, and I just dropped, and I couldn't hold myself up, and was noticing some balancing.
Was it all the time? Did it come and go, or was it like constant?
The floating feeling was always there, but sometimes I could push through it and they would hold me up, and other times they wouldn't, and it was all incredibly strange. With COVID going around, there was concern that maybe there was something there, and but really what happened that really pushed me is I went back for my cardiology follow-up. We had done some carotid artery imaging and some heart scans and stuff. And I went back to see him with a cane. And I was very weak. My son had to drive me to the appointment. I could not drive anymore. I was afraid I'd be on the road and that my legs wouldn't hit the gas or the brakes when I needed them to. So
oh my God.
When he saw me with a cane, and he also really pointed out the imbalance issues I was having that I wasn't even fully aware of yet. But he looked at me and he said, "You need a neurologist. You need one yesterday." I came home. I looked up a neurology office associated with the same clinic, Emory, here in Atlanta. And the next appointment available was 3 months away. And I said to my husband, I think you have to take me into the hospital. And of course, at that time with COVID, nobody wanted to go to a hospital, right? Because you could go in and never come back out. You couldn't take your family with you. I mean, it was like, do we really do this? And to credit my sister-in-law, actually, her husband had Guillain-Barré. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. A few years back, and it presented much the same, a weakness in his legs, and it creeped up. And she said, "Please, Kristi, go in right now. Just in case this is something terrible like that, please go in right now." And so my husband dropped me off at the Emory ER, and I was admitted. Wait,
time out, Kristi. What is going on through your head right now? You're a mom of 3 teenagers, a wife. You've got what was a thriving practice, a chiropractor. You're a doctor. What is going through your mind with all this? I can't even imagine.
Until I got sick, I was a type A. You just push through. You do what you got to do to get through the day. And so I hadn't even really. I mean, that list that my doctor and I had come up with. Yeah, there were some scary things on there. She'd ordered an MRI of my brain. Yeah. Is there a tumor in there? Do I have MS? Those were at the top of my list to rule out. Not that, no part of me said those are what's going on. However, what was interesting is that on that list, she also did have Lyme. And it was just one thing on that list. But it wasn't anything I was chasing
after. Were you scared?
I was thinking like a doctor. So doctors just think very analytically. We get the list and we start crossing things off. And I was crossing things off. Okay, so I knew it wasn't, once the MRI came back clear, I knew I didn't have a tumor. in my brain, at least. I knew it wasn't happening up there. But when I got into Emory, I remember they put me on the seizure ward because they were convinced that there was a mass somewhere, if not in my brain, then maybe in my spine. And they were fully expecting me to have a seizure. And they were certain I had that tumor. And so we went, that was the first place we went, with all the testing, was more MRIs of my spine, another one of my brain to make sure something wasn't missed the first time. And, back home, I'm removed from home. So all I get is little phone calls with the kids, with my husband. Nobody's there with me. I'm alone. But I was there for 5 days. And it wasn't until day 5 that I said to them, could this be Lyme? We have ruled out everything else. They had done spinal taps. They had done, it was everything. And they were getting ready, honestly, to release me with no answers. We hadn't found out why. And so I said, look, I know I didn't visit the Northeast. That alone was enough for them to discredit a Lyme diagnosis. They ruled it out. And I said, nothing else makes sense. Is it possible? And they said, well, we're going to do we'll check the spinal fluid for that as well. But here's a PT referral and a wheelchair in case you need one. And that was it. There's no answer. And then a promise to follow up with me in 6 to 8 weeks. So needless to say, everyone comes to pick me up. It's very emotional. I remember sitting in the back seat of our SUV between my boys. My daughter's up front with my husband, and these 18-year-old boys, well, 17 at the time, are on either side of me in the SUV. And my one, rests his head on my shoulder, grabs my hand, and does this. And, yes, I'm close with my kids, but I should have known then what he had known better, what he had been through that week I was gone. Because to get back to the family, he wound up with terrible depression from this unknown of what is going on with my mom kind of thing. And so he wound up on medication. It just, as the months progressed, we had to address things for his health while I was deteriorating and trying to figure out my own. But what's super cool is that I had already met with that functional medicine doctor. So once I got home, I messaged her and said, we've ruled out almost everything on our list. What's left is Lyme and hormones. And she said, I'm going to give you a clinical diagnosis of Lyme. We're going to treat you for 60 days and see what happens. And within 60 days, I was walking. Again, no cane, no walker. Certainly, I never wound up needing a wheelchair. And it took almost that full 60 days, but I did get some strength back. I wish I could say that was the end of my journey. It was not. But it confirmed for us.
It gave you hope.
And led to the lab. It gave me hope. And it led to an eventual proper diagnosis with testing, with proper testing, with the kind of testing they do in Germany and the rest of Europe, right? The United States is so far behind in their testing. And the tests that we do have here, although they're very specific for Lyme, they are not very sensitive at all. And so, now I know that upwards of 60, 70% of people are missed with the Western blot and ELISA and all these other tests. And so I was really fortunate. I'm one of those that can say that we caught it fairly quick and yet not quick enough, because I do still have symptoms and issues. And, I'm essentially a chronic Lyme patient.
You say chronic Lyme patient. And do you feel, Kristi, with all the research you've done and being a doctor yourself, do you feel like we can ever get rid of this?
So, it's the same. The Lyme bacteria is a spirochete. It burrows in, it hides. We already know that. We know that with syphilis and stuff. And so will it ever truly be gone? I don't think so. I actually have donated my body for studies where they will open up my brain after I've passed on and look to see where are they? Are they still there? You know, because I want us to know. I want us to know, is it ever really gone? And you know, the knee joints, those common areas, they have the right to my body for that. And I just felt that was important again for the next generation to know. Can you really beat it? I was my doctor. Once I was walking again, we realized these migraines that had developed were not going away. I was starting to have these crazy episodes where I thought we were having an earthquake in Georgia, but I was tremoring instead. I was in bed and looking at the window, and the window's going like this, and I'm like, oh, we're having an earthquake in Georgia. And then I sit up.
Oh my gosh, are you kidding?
Gone. No, the earthquake's gone. And then I lay back down, and there it is again. And it was because I was tremoring. And so all of these other symptoms started coming up, and it just got really scary. So that was, you know, the 6-month, 8-month mark of being sick. Things were just deteriorating again.
Well, Kristi, how does your everyday life look now? You're home, but you're walking, but you've got these migraines and you're still getting different symptoms. But life must go on. Your kids still have to go to school. Your husband still has to work.
Life
and you had mentioned to me.
Yeah, life was very different. I was no longer making meals. I could not cook. I could not make meals. I could not stand long enough to make a meal. We bought a lot. We went from like an organic kind of homemade meal, family dinners around the table every night, to grab what you can. Mom's upstairs sleeping.
We had food trains too for a long time.
Wow.
I finally did reach out to friends. I don't know why I waited. And I said, please, one friend really. And I said, Jane, would you please put together a food train? And so my kids, you wouldn't believe the change in the mood in the house, just because they had actual home cooked meals or even restaurant meals that were brought in. And it was night and day different from, you know, but when you're sick, I felt so bad that I couldn't see what was going on around me. So I go to them and I say, and Brooklyn's learning to drive at that time. And so I'm asking her to take me places. She's got her permit.
Yeah.
You know, I'm like, would you take me to this doctor's appointment? Would you go by and pick up the groceries? Would you, like, I couldn't do anything. And so my kids did everything. There was just nothing.
This is a really good segue. Yeah, this is a really good segue because Brooklynn, let's get to, we asked your mom how she's feeling in the house while this is happening. What's going on in the kids' world in your home that was one way and practically overnight it's another way?
Yeah. Well, I go to a private school, so I only go 3 days a week, and my brothers are in public school, so they're like never home, and then when they are home, they're at work. So it was pretty much me taking care of the farm every morning and night, and
What did that entail, Brooklynn?
What?
Like, what was your daily routine?
Farm
It went from being like, oh, maybe I'll go to school now, and maybe I'll, you know, grab a sandwich with my friends after, get some TCBY or something. Like, what does it look like now?
I never got to see my friends. I remember last summer, I think it was, I never left my house until I think it was the very end of July when I finally got out and went on a trip away. And then August too, I ran away to Wisconsin with Callie. But no, before that, like, I never left my house.
I couldn't be left alone.
Yeah.
Was the problem, because I was so unsteady on my feet. So when the boys were at school or at work, I needed somebody there. My husband does not work from home. Typically at that point, everything had opened back up and he was back at his office. And so she was it.
Yeah.
She was my nurse. I mean, she would, if the days I couldn't get out of bed, she'd bring me something to snack on to eat.
Well, and it was hard because then my schooling is very hard. And so on top of having to get all my work done, I was going upstairs every hour to bring her medicine and to check on her and make sure she's okay, and to bring her food. Just like, I didn't have my license at that point, but Because usually you would have the boys go and
But you were taking
pick
care
up
of the
stuff.
animals, right?
Yeah,
You had to get up in the morning and go do farm chores.
yeah, every weekend and everything. Like, there was no sleeping in. I didn't get sleep.
You didn't get
Yeah,
sleep.
and we didn't notice. It's terrible. It's terrible. I was too.
Wait, why weren't you getting sleep?
It was just
Why
hard.
wasn't Brooklyn getting sleep?
We didn't know what was going on with her, and I was always busy, always doing something. I had to be up early in the morning. I remember, like, especially on days that Dad wasn't home and the boys were at school, I was up at like 6:45 or 7 to make sure that she was okay.
See, and I don't remember, like, there was never a moment where we said, Brooklyn, you will now be your mother's personal nurse,
Yeah.
right? You don't make that decision. She's an empathetic person. She actually wants to be a nurse one day. And so just naturally, she did those things.
Yeah.
They were never expected of her, and yet she did those things and really rarely complained. And when I can't get out of bed, or when I do, I have to sit on the couch with a blanket over my head because I'm so light sensitive that, like, a cloudy day is too bright for me, right? And like you said, we're on a farm. We have animals that have to be let out every morning. We have animals that need to be fed. We have, the horses need to be hosed down, and we have 4 dogs in our house. They all need to be fed. These are all things I took on. The farm was my thing.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't ever her thing.
Yeah.
She's got a goose she loves,
Yeah.
but like that's her thing. The one goose. The whole farm became her farm.
Yeah.
To manage. And it was absolutely. I remember you were also helping me with my office at the time because I had hired another doctor to cover for me. And then there were days that my staff couldn't be there. So she's kicked out to work as a receptionist at my office.
Mm-hmm.
Because I couldn't manage the business anymore. And eventually we closed the business. I lost my practice because of Lyme. So yeah, there was, you don't realize until you just start to feel this much better and look around. That's when I realized my son, actually what happened was his friends reached out to the counselor at school and said, Blake's in trouble, emotionally in trouble, big trouble. And so then we go, oh my gosh, wait, what's going on? And we address that. It wasn't until that summer that Brooklyn finally was like, don't you guys realize I want to see my friends? I have a life. Can I please go away?
I remember begging to go to a friend's house for 2 hours. I just wanted to get out.
And it's, I never felt selfish, but we just, I was so wrapped up in dying. At that point, that summer, I was dying. I had started the Horowitz protocol, which saved my life, let me just say. But while you're in the protocol, it's much like chemo. It breaks you down before it builds you up. And I was dying. It was, wound up on oxygen. And when you're doing that, when you don't even feel like your soul is any longer in your body, you're not looking around anymore at the people in the way you used to. She and I fortunately had developed a relationship with her going into this.
Yeah.
That she was happy to help me.
Yeah.
Tired as all get out, but happy to help me. If I hadn't had that kind of relationship with her, I think we would have probably had to hire a nurse, and would have realized that that's what we were asking of her. So it's eye-opening when I didn't know, I'm not sure your dad still really knows. This will be very eye-opening for him, this recording, to realize the enormity of your life, how it changed all of this.
I got a question for Brooklyn. So just take me to okay, let's just go to a typical day while your mom's in the thick of it and you guys don't really know what's going on. Because, even though you're spending a ton of money on this, going to doctors, taking a bunch of pills, you're taking care of your mom. You've gone, let's say you did the chores in the morning, you've checked on your mom, you've brought her food, you brought her medicine, you've done some schoolwork. It's now time to maybe go to bed. What's going on in your mind on a normal night like that? As a young lady, what's going on?
I don't really know. I think it was just so chaotic that I didn't really think about it. I
You're
was
just
stressed
caught
out.
up in it.
Yeah, it was just like,
she's a workhorse too.
yeah. I think I
She
was
just buckles down and does the
Mhm.
stuff, and then it's later when she goes, I think you felt trapped in your own home.
Yeah. No, I think I lost it at one point, like after months, and that's when I went to the beach with a friend's family. But I don't know. I think it just started to feel normal at one
Did you have
point.
anyone? Did you have anyone to talk to help you
My
support
best
you through
friend,
this?
yeah. I mean, we would FaceTime all the time, and like they all knew what was going on and stuff. But
her best friend is, I think, the only reason she came through this herself without
Yeah.
being broken is Fee. Fee was, whether it was the FaceTimes they were doing or
Yeah.
just scrolling together through Instagram. I do remember a handful, maybe not even twice, where I said, bring your friends over. I'm going to be upstairs still, but just
there
please
were a few
try
times,
to
yeah.
have like a normal hangout. But then in the midst of the normal hangout, I'm throwing up.
Yeah.
And I can't get to the bathroom by
Oh,
myself.
I remember.
Can you help me get to the bathroom and throw up?
I think Lily was helping me carry oxygen tanks up the stairs.
My oxygen tanks weren't in my room.
Yeah.
I couldn't get to them. Her friends are helping bring oxygen tanks. Like, what? And
Yeah.
and you're right. You make a good point. It started to be normal. After 2 years,
I got you. Yeah.
it was like, ugh, here we go again. And again, because she's a workhorse, I think. My other kids dealt differently with it. One of them looked away and was just like, and they're twin boys. They're 18 now. One of them just looked away and sort of just decided not to internalize any of it. And the other one internalized all of it and had to escape it and sort of in unhealthy ways. And so, we all deal with these things so differently. And she was the kind of workhorse that stepped in and said, I got this. But not because it was easy.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. All right. So bring me up to speed to you're going through the treatment, you do the Horowitz treatment, you break down, you're on oxygen, and now how do you get better to where you can actually meet with me and have lunch and then get on this podcast?
Yeah, because I wouldn't have been able to have a conversation like this, even a 10-minute version of this then, right?
Right.
My brain, it was too much.
Yeah.
But no, the Horowitz protocol, though it is brutal, I'm a researcher again. I'm a doctor. And so I saw his research come out in October of 2020 with this double dapsone dose.
Yeah.
Double dose dapsone. And when my doctor gave me all the other options, none of them said, hey, there's a 50% chance you're in remission after this. But that one did. And I said, I want that one then. Even if it's a crapshoot, right? Yeah. I want that one. Let's try that one. And we pulled me off about a week early because of the oxygen levels tanked quite low, 70s of my pulse ox. And again, didn't want to see me in the hospital in 60s. And so we pulled me off. And I just slowly started to feel, and it was a slow progression. It wasn't like after 60 days, I'm back. I got out to September. The kids were going back to school. And I could be alone for little shorter periods of time. I was driving by October. I could drive again. The last thing to go were the migraines. My last migraine was this last Christmas Day. We had traveled up to Wisconsin. I could not drive yet, though I could not ride it's a 14-hour drive to Wisconsin. We've been doing it every year, other than that COVID year. I could not do that. We flew me up. They drove and met me up there. But Christmas Day was my last migraine, and I haven't had one since. I've had headaches. Yeah.
Had smaller versions.
Yeah.
I've had headaches, and I'm still, of course, very careful. A day like this, where we're doing this kind of event, I will need a nap, a good solid nap. But I don't have to choose. One of the things I did to get through that time of being so sick is my husband would say, pick one thing that you're going to do, the most important thing that you're going to do that day, and everything else, just set it aside. And I still missed prom pictures, and I still missed, I missed all kinds of things those 2 years. But now I'm up to like 2-3 things in a day that I can do. Now I have to give a shout out real quick, because while I was finishing Horowitz and starting to feel better, I knew that one of my key components to the why my immune system was depressed and therefore more sensitive to Lyme than maybe someone else. I knew it was an emotional component. I knew that emotional stresses were involved. And so I did start the DNRS program with Annie Hopper. It's an online program.
What is DNRS?
The dynamic neural retraining system. It's essentially retraining your brain to address all kinds of things. I mean, the reports she shows are chemical sensitivities. Let's say that's your thing, mold sensitivities. But they had Lyme patients, and of course, emotional things. So those triggers, whatever your trigger is, you address those. And I do have to give some credit to that system, I think, helping me get that last bit addressed, because I do address my stresses very differently now. I've done a lot of healing, and I've got, the EMDR practitioner that helped me with that as well. And, there's pieces, there's no one answer. Horowitz didn't do it all. But man, he put the fire out that was in my brain, which brought back family to my life. The fire being out, that's kind of a big deal, because otherwise you're just throwing buckets of water on that fire. But my brain was on fire.
Right.
And
Right.
so it's kind of neat.
Okay, keep going. It's kind of neat. What?
I was gonna say, it's kind of neat what's led to Brooklyn's project, because 11 years I spent with her as her 11 years I spent as her Girl Scout leader, and a bunch of her friends, of course. And a lot of folks don't know that equivalent to Eagle Scout project for boys is the Gold Award project for girls. And so when Brooklynn was presented with the need to come up with something she's passionate about, something that she's going to put a lot of hours, 80 plus hours into a project, she decided to address Lyme disease. And so I'll let her tell you what she did and how she did it and everything.
Yeah.
But, we're finding that this illness has created some really bright spots and good things for the world.
Yeah, there's always a reason, right? There's always, nothing ever happens to you. I'm still working with this. It doesn't happen to you, it happens for you. And we just don't know all the reasons at once. They will show themselves as time goes on. Like the podcast, I've met some amazing people because of Lyme, right? And have learned a lot about myself.
And I wouldn't wish it on anyone. For that reason alone, I wouldn't. I'm one of those folks that, when they say what doesn't kill you makes you stronger, I don't ever want to do that again. Like, that's not what I'm.
I don't know about that. I don't think it makes you stronger, because I'm probably the weakest I've ever been. From Lyme, not but mentally, but definitely.
Yeah,
but if I weren't getting better, I had a relapse. But I had a relapse, as I was telling you a few days ago, and it's just like, but it's like, it gets you down mentally as well. But Brooklynn, you decide to take on this amazing project. Why? How? What? Why did you decide to do this?
Yeah, so I had to pick something to do that was lasting, and it had to meet like requirements. I had to go through an interview, and I didn't really want to do it at first, but then once I found something that actually meant something to me, it was easier to do after that. And so I think we put 80 hours into it, but basically, I hired a graphic designer, and so I've created this infographic, which we've started distributing, and we're gonna get it put up in certain doctors' offices and stuff. And we've already started with that. Um,
An infographic is like a medical poster.
yeah.
When you go to a doctor's office and they have their, an ENT as a picture of the latest and greatest information on sinus surgery, that's an infographic, you see?
Mm-hmm.
And so she put together the most beautiful
Yeah.
infographic through the help of a dear friend of ours.
Mm-hmm.
A beautiful infographic.
Yeah, it's got like everything you need to know about Lyme disease on it. So I first made that, and then just recently I finished making my LymeLivesHere.com website. And so we've got a blog on there, and pretty much it has the same information as my infographic does, but it's online. And it also has a PDF link in order so that you can print out the handout. But
Okay.
my goal is to get, I think we said at least 200 views by September. But it's been 3 days and we already have 120, so that's pretty good.
Oh my gosh, that's so great, girl. But why did the Lyme thing become passionate for you? Just because you'd lived it? Because I would imagine some kids would be like, yeah, I don't want to talk about that. I lived it. Get it? I've lived it. I don't want to get it out of my world. Right. But you kind of had to embrace it kind of and learn more about it. Why did you go that route, do you think?
I think what frustrated me was that when I would tell people that, like, very briefly, like, oh, my mom is sick, she has Lyme disease, they thought it was, like, nothing. Like, I remember talking to a couple people, and they were just like, oh, I know someone who has that. And I was like, yeah. And they were like, they just didn't think anything of it. Like, they were diagnosed with it, and they were fine, because it hits everyone differently. And so I think I want people to know that it is a big deal, and it's not, like, oh, everyone gets this, or it's a tick, whatever. Like, because I remember, like, when I was younger, I thought if I had a tick on it, I thought the only bad part was that you're itchy after. Because I just remember thinking it was, like, normal that everyone got tick bites.
We live on a farm, as you do. We've pulled ticks off of all of us, many ticks, right? And actually, we're fairly sure it wasn't even this last tick that was my first tick that had Lyme. Super frustrating that nobody in the state of Georgia told us to be aware of ticks. Now, my dogs get medicine to prevent tick bites and Lyme disease, but no medical doctor is telling us to be careful of this. So I would literally pull them off these kids and put like some Neosporin or some hydrocortisone or never thinking that it was carrying potentially these devastating diseases. And this was in my backyard, where we played. And so she was just as frustrated and scared. Like, Mom, I've had that itchy spot before.
Yeah.
Right. And
I wanted people to know, because everyone says, like, it's the Northeast, right? That you get it from.
Northeast, Midwest. So, if you haven't visited there, you don't have it. Well, she's got a picture, a map from 2018 from the Bay Area Lyme Foundation. That's wrong.
And that's on my poster,
well, we already know that's wrong.
We know that's wrong, but the world doesn't.
No one else does.
No one, and even our doctors here in town, unless you have that Lyme literate one.
Yeah. It's not accepted, and that's what Bruce was talking about on the podcast, where his second wind was his tick bite, and how he was in his second wind and got a tick bite, and then had to go and got very angry at it not being diagnosed. And it's fairly simple to be diagnosed properly. It's just no one will do it. Okay, why? And then that's when we go to the IDSA and the CDC and find out all this stuff and all the political garbage, because that's what it is surrounding it.
And it's true that it's easy to treat if you catch it early. It is true that it's easy to treat if early, but we're not catching it early. We're telling people just pull it off instead of submitting the tick to a tick lab that'll check for things that it might have been carrying, instead of urgent care and dermatologists in the area being aware. It's here. Lyme is here in Georgia. There's 200 some people just alone on a Facebook page that I help manage in our own community, and yet it's dismissed. one thing I wanted to mention is you mentioned anger, that you get angry about it. And what I found when I really would sit, there were months and months and months where I couldn't do much besides sit and think. Okay. And what I realized is I was going through the stages of grief, and probably Brooklyn went through her own stages of grief, right? Where, and she held on to her anger for a long time. It wasn't until, a year after I had gotten sick, a year after basically being my home nurse, before she finally allowed anger to come up and just and for her to feel it. But in that time when I couldn't do much else, I would sit and I started writing a memoir, and it's not finished yet, but it's really about the process of grieving while you are in the midst of a chronic illness, and that feeling of denial that you initially have, and then the depression that sits in. I was getting ready to write letters to these kids, telling them how much I loved them, and that I didn't know if I was going to survive this, So,
oh my God, that tears me up. That gets me teary.
Yeah.
I can't even imagine.
And then what they don't tell you about grief, they tell you there's these stages, right? And there's the anger, and there's what they don't tell you is that even after you've done the anger, guess what? You get to go back and do it again, maybe, right? So you think you come through that stage and you're feeling better, you're not depressed anymore, and then all of a sudden you are. And so grieving what your life looked like before, and when you talk second wind, I'm still processing what this is going to mean for me.
I know. Me too.
And again, at the time, I don't even know if I realized until today, actually, that you have had to go through these same grieving processes. Blake, my son Blake, same grieving processes. Tristan, and in all their own different ways, they were grieving the life we had, the ease of it, the vitality, that was gone. And is just now.
You're not the same. You're not the same. You're not the same. You may talk the same. You may act the same, animated or whatever. But yeah, it's not like, hey, let's go for a bike ride. Hey, let's go do this. Hey, let's go do that. It's more, I don't know. It's just so different. And you're right. And I'm about to go to my summer house where I try to fit in every freaking activity I can do every day, and which of my friends can I get to do them with me, and how many different kinds of activities can I do. And I could cry right now. I'm really worried about going up there and not being able to do the things I want to do.
Brooklyn's an extrovert like you are. Yeah. Brooklyn is that extrovert, and that is what she literally dealt with, that same thing of what am I giving up here? I'm an introvert. I love to be at home, but yes, what you're feeling, I think she went through those same feelings. And
Brooklyn, share. Let's hear it. Tell me about it.
Well, for me, I just love hanging out with my friends every single day. And so losing that entire summer was just hard. It was just
it was more than a summer.
Yeah. Well, but during the school year, I got to see everyone at school. I had teachers who were bringing me to school because you couldn't drive me.
That's right.
And then my grandpa drove me the beginning of this year. Now I have my license, so it was a lot easier. But no, I had a teacher who would pick me up and take me home every day. And she was a patient too. So she kind of she would see you sometimes when you were sick. But then it was hard because
I used to help you with school.
Yeah.
She would need me to, sit down and help me learn these cards or help me with Spanish she lost her tutor essentially for that year too.
Yeah.
I didn't even really think about that, but
then I'd get home from school and I'd be exhausted and I'd have to immediately go and check on you and then, just do everything else. So I was pretty tired.
Yeah, did you ever have times when you just cried?
Yeah.
Or just got... Yeah?
Yeah.
How did you get through it?
I felt bad at first because I didn't want to be angry at you. But then at the same time, it was what else am I supposed to be angry at?
Right.
I couldn't leave the house and do anything. I felt bad too for that, but no, eventually I just got Well, once school started back up again, it was kind of a distraction, I think. And
Yeah.
you were getting better at that time. I went on 2 trips, which really helped me just get a break. I think I was gone for like a month total, maybe longer.
One of our key healing moments. She's a big fan of Morgan Wallen.
Yeah.
And we had bought her concert tickets, and I wanted to try, and I'm light sensitive and I'm sound sensitive, but I'm starting to get through it. It's after the Horowitz protocol. It's like the fall after. And I basically said, F you to the universe, and I'm going, and I don't know how it's going to go. And I might have to go back and sleep in the Jeep during the concert, but we went. Her daddy and I took her, and I had my headphones and all the things I needed, and I could barely walk back to the Jeep afterwards. My legs had gone tingling weird again.
Yeah,
right?
I remember we were like
almost having to carry me back, but we did it.
Yeah,
and it was
but you did it.
We did it, and we did it together.
Yeah,
and I'm like, this is it. This is the beginning of like life coming back to us, to our home, to our relationship, to that was a really special moment. I won't ever forget it. And she stood there by me. I'm like looking away because the lights are bright, and he's singing a harder song than I was ready for.
People like checking up on you too.
Other people are like, "Are you okay?"
My dad with her headphones on.
But she was right there, like this, like singing, and we had our cowgirl hats on, and it was just good. It was good. I think it made us remember that I was getting better. I was getting stronger, body, mind, and spirit all around, and she was a reason why, So, and here we are now.
What does life look like again? Yeah. What does life look like now? Because you're only 2 years.
So different.
I mean, you and I both know we're not healed, but we still have setbacks. We still have things. There's still moments when you're like, I can't really do that right now.
Yeah, now is far more normal for her because I can drive again. And I don't have, instead of taking 25 medications or, 56 pills a day, I have a few supplements. I have a good number of supplements. But they're supplements. They're vitamins, But we bought tickets for Morgan Wallen concert again in August, and I might not even need my earplugs. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So, and we're going to go to the beach this year, and this year I will actually get to be on the water and on the beach and hang with cousins and stuff up at the mountains. And it's totally different. It's totally different. I mean, outside of me saying, girly girl, I got to go take a nap.
Yeah.
I'm out doing barn again.
Yeah.
She doesn't, I let her sleep in today. So, and wait, not today, the day before.
No, I slept in today.
You slept in today. Yeah. So, she's got a normal teen life again. Her friends come here. She goes off. Her brothers are graduating. It's just, it's returning to some bit of normal. But no, I mean, it's not the same. It's a new, different, gentler normal, I guess.
It is. You have to grieve the loss of what was your life.
Yeah. Yeah. And the writing is what allowed me to do that properly. Yeah.
Yeah. But Brooklyn, how are you feeling now? With everything.
Better. Yeah. It's starting to feel pretty normal again for me.
Yeah. The new normal is okay with you?
Yeah. I'm pretty good with it. I mean, I see my friends like every day now. I'm always I've got people at home or I'm somewhere.
She's my run around extrovert. I mean, that's it. I mean, she deserves this. She deserves to go off and be a teenager.
You can drive, so now we can go do stuff together.
And we, it was so silly. We used to go to Target a lot, all the time, right? And then I was sick and I couldn't go to Target at all. I still remember the first time last fall that I said, let's go to Target. And I couldn't walk around as long, and we didn't goof around maybe as much. Yeah. But like, it's those little things you start putting back into your life. And then all of a sudden you're like, wait a minute, we even went to Costco the other day. Like that wasn't even fun. We should have done something fun instead of going to Costco, right? But it's returning to a far more comfortable living again.
So where do we see this website going? Yeah. And where do we see this website going that you created? Because it's gorgeous. You're going to get way more than 100 views. And tell me that, because then I have something to say about that. Go ahead. Where do you see it going?
That's the hardest question for her to,
Where would you like it to go?
I mean,
everyone in Georgia.
Yeah.
Right?
I don't know. I like everyone in Georgia to know about it, or just to know what Lyme is in any sort of way.
The most rewarding is for her friends to say, oh, this is real.
Yeah.
For her daily life, for there to be some recognition and acceptance of what it is and what we've gone through, and and the prevention still of another bite, and all of that. I know that I just recently became a Global Lyme Alliance mentor, like a peer-to-peer mentor for others. So I kind of hope to get her website and information linked up with them somehow. LymeDisease.org, these sites that really honestly got me through those difficult times and gave me hope and gave me actual current information. Because the only information she has on her website is current information.
Yeah.
It's not dated. It's just
getting started. Yeah.
Yeah. But, we wanted to hit Facebook and Instagram and all these other little social media outlets. That's why she didn't plan to do a podcast.
Yeah.
And then you were like, when I met you through our Lyme group, you're like, how about a podcast? So I think some things just have a life of their own, they say. I think this might have a life of its own, and we're just, I think, excited.
Absolutely.
To see where it goes. Yeah.
Yeah, it's going to be exciting to see where it goes. Yeah, and be open to what comes away. One thing I wanted to comment on about your website is I wonder, and I really don't know the answer to this, there's got to be a bunch of kids that are living with Lyme in their home. And I wonder if there weren't something that maybe you blogging or sharing how you were able to get through, or, every now and then just putting in a little blurb. Yeah, I got really angry. I remember getting really angry one day and this happened and this is how I dealt with it, or something. And another thing, I don't know if this happened for you, Brooklynn, but I know when I had a friend way back when whose mother I heard had Lyme, and her mother, she had to take care of her baby sister and brother and stuff. And I looked at her mother looked fine to me. And I'm like, oh, she's just lazy. She's just making my friend do all this so we can't go play. Right. Yeah. That's what I thought. And I wonder, because we look good on the outside. I heard it last night at one of the restaurants. Well, you look great. You must be feeling good. I'm like, actually, right now I'm in a lot of pain. I can't move my neck. Everything hurts. I get lost getting here. I can't remember anything, but how do you, it's almost like you want people to understand it so you don't feel like you have to make excuses.
Yeah.
Maybe. That's for me. I feel like I have to excuse my behavior or excuse being late to something because, honest to God, I couldn't get moving to do it. You know what I mean?
I know as a doctor again, I'm a chiropractor, but I had patients with chronic illnesses, fibromyalgia and migraines and things like that. And I always felt very empathetic to them. I always thought I understood, but you don't understand unless you've lived with it or lived with it.
Yeah.
And so it's funny because when we named this website, when she came up with this website, we were thinking Lyme lives here in Georgia. Okay, Lyme lives here. When you heard the name, your brain immediately goes, Lyme lives like here in our home, right? And so it's interesting when you bring up the idea.
I still feel that way.
Yeah.
Well, and so it has a life of its own, and I think that we do have the ability to blog through the site. She asked me to do an initial post. But we do have the ability. And so she would have the ability to really roll with that angle. It's an angle that we hadn't even thought about until we knew you, met you, and chatted with you. And so who's to say where it's going to go? That's why we do all of this, right? It's why we meet each other, and all of us Lyme folks, we do need to be there and holding each other up and encouraging these avenues and angles that we hadn't even really thought about. So
yeah, I would love, I just see you being able, Brooklynn, to be that beacon of hope and light for teenagers like yourself. There's got to be a million of them going through the same darn thing you are and have been going through, that could say, oh, look, she understands. I get it now. And just sometimes just reading somebody else's story or hearing somebody else's story can really help, because you're really not alone.
Yeah.
Right? That's the point. And the fact that you did this, and it's such a beautiful website. How do people find it, Brooklynn?
So it's at the very bottom of how to contact us on my infographic. So I'm hoping just people like in doctors' offices will see that and visit it. We shared it a couple times on Facebook, and that's how I've gotten the majority of my views.
Give them the website name.
What's the website? Tell us how to get to it.
LymeLivesHere.com.
Okay.
Yeah.
Perfect. And Kristi, are there ways people can get in touch with you?
The best way is through her website.
Yeah, we have contact us. There's a contact us button on there that you can use.
She is manning that, but as the guest writer of the blog, from time to time, it hits both our mailboxes. So yeah, you can reach out on either one of those. How this grows and where it goes next, who's to say? But the more people it touches and reaches and that listen to this, the more change we make, the better off all of us will be. Future generations, they call it Lyme generation, because this is here. It's here to stay. And so the more people that know it, and know they're not alone. She felt very alone. Thankfully, I have a very supportive husband who they also are close. She is very close with her dad. So they had each other. But there are kids out there that don't have that relationship, say, with another parent or a sibling or whatever, that or that best friend they can tell anything to, right? So, yeah, we're here. Let us know. And I would also encourage the Global Lyme Alliance. They have peer-to-peer for family members of the suffering. So someone like Brooklynn, if she was really stuck in that place still, could reach out to them and get a peer to talk with. So please, I would encourage anyone that's struggling to also, we don't need to recreate that.
Yeah.
There's a program for that. So we just want to let people know it's
There's
out
a
there.
lot of support groups.
Yeah.
There's a lot of information. We don't, and I've heard this on different Lyme podcasts, specific Lyme podcasts, which there are a few, that we've already got these groups. We don't need to add another group. We just need to support the groups that are doing the most good. And which ones do you support? The Global Lyme Alliance?
Global Lyme Alliance, I'm just in love with them. They do a lot of money raising for research. And so right now they're focusing on Bartonella. We didn't even touch on co-infections and stuff, but I know your other speakers have. They put their money where their mouth is. It's fantastic. They get some really great things happening there. And then LymeDisease.org is honestly how I felt sane, because they have a checklist of symptoms. They have a list of doctors. They have, there's, again, a lot of information there. And those were our two go-tos that I highly recommend. Those links actually will be added on to Brooklynn's website. This website keeps morphing and changing, and so it will be developing over the course of, the next year as it goes live and launches and all that. So
I see you at 30 years old still dealing with this website and all of the things it's become. In a good way.
Yeah.
Seriously.
Yeah.
Why not? Because this is not going away. This disease is not going away, and it's getting worse. And Bruce said it is an actual epidemic that we're not paying attention to.
Right.
And the fact, and we talked about this before we got on, the fact that you and me and everyone else who goes to the doctor with a wonky kind of symptom or a bite or something, and they want to say, oh, it's a spider bite. Oh, it's cellulitis. Oh, don't worry about it. There should be a very simple, inexpensive test that's conclusive.
Right.
It doesn't matter how strong your immune system is on how you present, that we can just have the test.
Yeah. And Germany does it. So Germany's already doing that, right? Like there's other countries that are already doing that. And in fact, when I first got sick, I thought I was going to have to send my blood over to Germany. Well, they wouldn't take it because of COVID. They didn't want American blood traveling overseas. But, you know, other places are doing it already. We're always slow here. And honestly, here's, as a doctor, we are changing over from doctors are the experts to you've got to be an expert. You are your best advocate, you know? And so that's why getting out into the masses and having the everyday folks, the folks, I worry now about the folks that are out, you know, working on our electric lines and in the woods and in the trees and in the farms. I mean, so many of us have horses and stuff that have been affected by this, dogs, the folks that live in parks, the folks that live in, you know, tucked away into the shady woods and stuff. We need them to hear this because your doctor might not. You can't rely on a doctor right now, unfortunately. Yeah. It's just not as simple as that anymore. You have to go in and demand the tests. You have to, you know, go in and counter them and give them the research studies yourself. You know, get on PubMed. And so it's just, this is just the beginning, I think, of a generation that's going to recognize that their health is in their hands. And that's how I think we will finally get people to listen, is by educating the masses.
Yeah. And we have to make it cost effective. We can't, I have a $4,426 bill from my original Lyme test.
Yep. Oh, I spent $20,000 at Emory and got no answers, right? That's what's wrong. That's what's wrong. And there are no simple answers, but we need to get, you know, donations and educational tools in the hands of, you know, the right authorities and the right doctors, but in all of our hands so that we can demand it. The long haul COVID folks have a lot of the same symptoms that chronic Lyme patients have. So I do believe there's going to be a awakening. They're going to recognize that you can have chronic virus, you can have chronic infections, whether they're viral or bacterial, and that we can't ignore them. And so I do think there's change coming. It's just, I wish it was coming faster. But we're doing our part.
Yeah.
And you're doing your part, and I appreciate that very much. Yeah.
I'm trying. Yeah. I mean, who knew that? It's just interesting how life unfolds, right?
Yep.
And all the things we learn along the way.
Yep.
I want to thank you both so much for your time today and for meeting with me and for sharing your story. And Brooklynn, kudos to you, girl.
Thank
that
you.
Website thing.
I'm so proud.
It's so cool. And to get the word out, but you did it with the idea of helping others.
Yeah.
It's always about helping others and getting the word out. And that's so huge.
Thank
and
you.
Yes, I want you to continue and do a blog and talk about what it's like to live with Lyme here in your house. I just think people need to know. People need to hear the stories of how it really knocks them out. And it just affects the whole family, and it affects your bank account, and it affects your retirement, and it affects everything. And people just don't know. And it would be a lot easier if we got everybody on the bandwagon. We could get the CDC and the IDSA and all these people to say, yeah, we really need to get this done. We really need to get this test figured out.
Get on the website and share it, you know? Yeah. Share it with everybody. Share it. Tell your neighbors, you know, we've got flyers. We're going to pass out to our neighbors. Just share it because there's so many that need to hear it. So thank you, Wendy.
And there's so many people who are sick. You're welcome. But there's so many people that are sick that a Lyme tick disease, co-infection, is what probably started that series of events that led them to that disease. And we just don't know.
Yep.
So yes. So yay, ladies. Thank you so much again.
It's been a pleasure. We appreciate you.
It's all good. Thank you so much. And until next time, breathe in your second wind. Thank you for listening today. I hope that something you heard made you smile, made you think, and made you feel. If these incredible stories empowered you, awakened you, or left you feeling inspired, make sure to share with a friend and write us a review on iTunes so we can continue to change lives through this content. Make sure you tag us while you're listening on our Facebook group, My Second Wind, or hit the link in the show notes to join the conversation. Until next time, go ahead and breathe in your second wind.